Hello, everyone, and thank you for watching today's webinar and our recording of today's webinar. Today with us is Lucia Kone from Milwaukee School of Engineering, who will be talking about STEM education in the United States of America. Lucia, please take it away.
Yeah, so I represent Milwaukee School of Engineering, which we'll talk about a little bit at the end of the presentation, but to start off, we'll just talk about STEM education in the United States, a little bit about STEM majors, the different types of schools that we have in the United States. So we'll talk a little bit about like how to pick a school as well, if you're interested in STEM, kind of what things to look for, to make sure that you pick a school in the US that's going to be a good fit for you and that you'll enjoy attending. We'll talk a little bit about the application process because that differs from school to school, tuition and scholarships, and then we'll end the presentation talking about the school that I represent, Milwaukee School of Engineering. So STEM majors, STEM is like a short for science, technology, engineering, and math. So a lot of the STEM majors that you'll, like look into if you're interested in this sort of, programming is gonna fall under the technology because technology kind of encompasses all the other three categories. With, technology emerging and, getting more and more advanced, even things within like science are going to include technology. When you're looking under a microscope, the microscopes are going to be even more and more advanced as you, go throughout. If you look back from like the 1950s till now, they're a lot more technologically advanced, as well as math. So like the different kind of like calculators that you'll use to like predict risk and probability and that sort of thing is also going to be a bit more advanced. So that's going to include technology. And then engineering as well, like all the different labs you'll have a lot of technology in those labs, and things like that. So these are kind of the four main fields within STEM, but again, technology will kind of encompass all four of them. So you might be thinking to yourself, why should I get a degree in STEM? So this is just a few, a little graph here that explains kind of the importance of getting a degree in STEM versus just going right into the field. The green is going to represent all of the jobs. The green on the left side is going to represent all of the jobs that are required that require a bachelor's degree. So you'll see it's a large portion of them require at least a bachelor's degree to be able to be hired. And then the top little blue part is going to be all the jobs that require an even higher degree, doctoral or master's degree, anything like that. On the right side is all the degrees that are required just for any other occupation that you might have. So you'll see there is a good chunk of the jobs that require a bachelor's degree, but there's a lot of them that require even less. So you can, work right in the field right away. You don't necessarily need a degree, but that's not true for degrees in STEM. Some jobs will require an associate's degree, so that's a 2-year degree. It's kind of unique to the US, I think. Not a lot of other countries offer associate's degrees, but it's kind of a stepping stone or say like a 2-year degree that some students can earn to go into the workforce, but then sometimes you earn that 2-year degree and then you move on to get your bachelor's degree, which is a 4-year degree as well. So about 73% of STEM jobs do require a bachelor's degree currently, but this number is projected to go up, as technology and advances and everything like that. The requirement to have a formal education is just going to be even more relevant, which is why it's going to be important that you do earn that degree. So the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, projections show that occupations in the STEM field are expected to grow by 8% by 2029, compared to only 3.7% for all the other occupations. You can see that occupations within the STEM field are expected to grow over more than 2 times the rate that all the other occupations are. So the jobs that are going to be becoming relevant and available in the STEM fields is just going to grow exponentially compared to jobs outside of, the STEM fields. And then computer occupations specifically are projected to grow even more by 11.5% by 2029. So this is definitely the largest growth of all the STEM-related jobs out there, just because of how technology is advancing. And computers, have gone from being one computer in this huge room down to like everybody has a computer in their pocket, in their cell phone. So we're going to need even more people to be working on, advancing these computers and how fast they can go and what they can all do. So if you're interested in doing anything with computers, I would definitely recommend going into, computer engineering, software engineering, computer science, data analytics. There's just a lot of different majors you can do within the computer occupations. And then we'll talk a little bit about kind of what you need to go into an undergraduate, to be admitted to an undergraduate degree versus a graduate program. So at the undergraduate level, you just need high school education. So we need to see, high school, proof of graduating high school, or that you will graduate by the time you enroll in an undergraduate program. Whereas for a graduate degree, you only, you need to show proof that you have a bachelor's degree, whether it's a Bachelor of Science or a Bachelor of Arts, just depends on what graduate degree you're looking to pursue. But you need to show that you've completed that bachelor's degree before you could be admitted to a higher level of a program, like a graduate program or doctoral program. Full-time course load for an undergraduate student is going to be about 12 credits. Usually students will take more than that. Usually they'll take, 16 or 19 credits or something like that. But you need to take at least 12 credits, which comes out to about 3 classes per term. You have to stay full-time if you're studying in the United States on an F1 visa. So you need to make sure that you're, maintaining that full-time status. And then at the graduate level, full-time is going to be 9 credits. So again, that's about 3 classes. But the classes will take a little bit, more work because they're graduate level, they're a bit higher level. So that's going to be pretty standard, is taking 9 credits at a graduate program. The average time to completion for an undergraduate program is about 4 years versus your graduate program is about 2 years. So there's a few different things you can do once you get your bachelor's degree in one of the STEM fields, or really a bachelor's degree from anywhere, whether it's in STEM or not, is you can go right on to graduate school to obtain a master's degree. So examples of some master's degrees that we offer, Master's of Science in Engineering, which is pretty broad. You just need an engineering undergraduate degree to be admitted into that. Master of Science in Civil Engineering is going to be more specific. And then, Master of Science in Computer Science. You can pick a graduate program that's a lot more broad, or you can pick one that's more specialized to just grow on the program that you did in your undergraduate to become even more specialized in that field. Or you can just work right in the field of study. This is pretty common for students who graduate with a degree in STEM, because your undergraduate education really does prepare you well to enter the industry right away. It's very hands-on, applications-based learning. You learn the theory behind things, but you also put it to use, in the lab. And so you're very well prepared to be able to work in the field. You don't necessarily need a bachelor's or a master's degree. So when you're looking at schools, make sure you're looking at what kind of internship opportunities they offer, because companies are really looking to hire students who have real world experience. So make sure that you look to make sure that they have CPT is available at the schools you're looking to apply to. CPT allows you to work in the US for an extended period of time after graduating. Typically, you can only work in the US after earning your degree for 1 year on an F1 visa, but CPT allows you to have an extra 2 years. You can work in the US for up to 3 years if you have a degree in STEM. So it's really nice to be able to work here longer and stay and get that experience here in the US. Internship allows you to, have really good networking opportunities. So you'll meet a lot of people, who will be working at that company, and they'll, have like people that they know maybe at other companies. If they don't, if they can't hire you at their specific company, they might know people at other ones. So they can, hook you up with students or, other professionals in other organizations. It allows you to, develop your career as well, and experience, the professional atmosphere. It allows you to get kind of a taste for different jobs within your field. So it's pretty common within, the STEM fields to be able to do a lot of different things with your degree. Some degrees will be pretty specialized, but even that, you can do a lot of different things with that degree. And so it allows you, doing internships allows you to kind of test out different jobs, to see what you like, just for kind of a short period of time before you'd actually commit once you graduate to working at that place, full time. It also gives you a competitive edge against other students who are applying to jobs as well. So you'll see that 72.2% of college graduates with internship experience do get a job offer, in contrast to only 36.5% for those who didn't complete one. So your chances, of getting a job offer after graduating almost doubles if you've had some sort of internship experience. So there's a few different ways you can find internships. A lot of institutions will help you find these internships just kind of as a part of their career services, career connections, whatever their career office is called. But, typically they'll have some sort of career fair where they'll invite a lot of different companies on campus, and you'll be able to go and interview with a lot of them. So that's a really good opportunity to find internships pretty easily, because they're all in one place. So you don't necessarily have to do, too much research outside of just going to that career fair. And then some institutions will also have some sort of company partnership, so they might, partner with specific companies to be able to place students at these companies for their internships, depending on what their major is and what their interests are. Something nice about working in the STEM field or getting a degree in STEM is that these internships are much more likely to be paid, because you're actually doing work for that company. You're not necessarily like just shadowing, you're actually doing work for the company, and so they'll pay you for your time. Most students will get, internships over the summer between each semester, between each year. But you can talk with, your school to see, you might be able to do some OPT, some CPT, and so you'll be able to, work while you're going to school, but you'll have to kind of talk to your international student advisor at whatever school you're looking for, because it's a little bit more difficult to do than OPT. So, and then I would just recommend researching institutions to see if they have strong relationships with reputable companies, because that's going to be your best chance of getting an internship, is making sure that these institutions that you're looking at really do have strong connections with reputable companies that do hire their students. And then the size of the institution will also determine the level of competition you have for internships. Some schools, will have a limited number of companies at their career fair, and so they have all these students competing for just a limited number of internships, whereas other schools will have, a lot of companies, and not a lot of students competing. So it's a lot easier to get an internship. So just kind of keep that in mind when you're looking at schools as well, to see kind of how competitive it is to get an internship. There are a few different types, sizes of schools, types of schools. So the picture you see here is a public institution, typically, because it's going to be really big. There's going to be really big lecture halls, and there's going to be typically one professor teaching the class, and then maybe a teaching assistant walking around to answer questions as well. But if you're somebody who really likes to ask a lot of questions and really likes to know your professor and your teacher like really well, a smaller school might be a better fit for you. But if you're somebody who likes to have a lot of people in class and kind of do a lot more studying on your own, and not ask a lot of questions, then a big university might be a better fit for you too. So typically, both small and large schools will have opportunities to get involved on campus, whether it's with student organizations or if there's campus events going on. But it's just a matter of figuring out what kind of campus culture you're, more drawn to, whether it's like a really big school atmosphere where there's tons of students walking around, there's a lot of different activities going on, or if it's a smaller school where, it's a bit more intimate. There's still activities to happen and, going on, but it's a lot smaller. And then public schools versus private schools is kind of a big difference as well. The biggest difference between them is going to be the size and the tuition. So tuition at a private schools tend to be a little bit higher, but they have scholarships that usually offset that cost a little bit to bring that cost down. And then public schools tend to have a lower tuition rate, but they don't necessarily have quite as many scholarships because they don't need to discount their tuition as much. 10 private schools can be big or small, but they tend to be a bit smaller than public schools tend to be pretty large because they're run by the state, and so they can accommodate a lot more students. Private schools sometimes will be affiliated with a religion, but public schools cannot be affiliated with any sort of religion because it goes against the U.S. Government. They're not allowed to be affiliated. So typically, public schools will have a bit higher prestige or kind of well known across the U.S. or the world, just because they tend to be a bit bigger. They have a bigger donor basis. But the prestige or like how well known the school is does not necessarily correlate to the quality of education. Some of these really smaller schools that you might not have heard of definitely still have a really good degree programs and offer very good education. They're just not as well known because they're a bit smaller. So just do your research when you're looking at schools to make sure that they offer the program that you're interested in, and that they have a reputation and like can really provide the education that you're interested in. So some schools are located kind of in an urban environment where there's a lot of other buildings and a lot of other companies maybe around, and then other schools are more of a rural environment where there's not as much like things going on. There's more scenery and it's more scenic, I would say, compared to the other schools that are right downtown or kind of in a more urban environment. So in a more urban environment, there's more opportunities, to go to concerts, sporting games, shopping, restaurants. And then there's more opportunities maybe for internships because there's a lot more companies around. But then in a more rural environment, there's more opportunities, to go hiking and do more kind of outdoorsy things and that sort of thing. And it's a lot less crowded as well. So just two things to kind of consider when you're looking at what schools to attend, as well as geographic, regions and seasons. And so if you want to go to a school that really has very similar climate to you, maybe consider that and where they are geographically within the US versus if you want to go somewhere that's like really different weather than you, maybe go somewhere that just consider that when you're looking at where the school is located within the US. And then some other things to consider when you're looking at schools is what kind of support programs they offer, whether it's some sort of academic accommodations, academic advising, career services, and counseling services. These are all going to be really important to look at when you're looking at schools because they're going to help you be as successful as you can within the university. It's inevitable that you're gonna, feel homesick moving across the world to a different school. And so having those counseling services available to have somebody to talk to is going to be really important. And then advising and career services. Most people don't really know what they want to do, like what specific job they want to get before they graduate. And so having, advising and career services available is going to be important to be able to help guide you and pick out kind of what fields you're interested in going into. And then most schools will have free academic support and tutoring, but just look into that, see what kind of resources they have available. for students who might need extra academic support, as well as like health and wellness, if there's a community clinic at the school, if there's a weight room or, walking track, if there's anything that you can do to, stay physically fit as well as mentally fit. And then financial resources are probably the most important. The thing that I get asked the most about with international students is like what kind of financial aid students that we offer, what kind of scholarships, and then any sort of like extra services or scholarships or financial aid that we offer. So some schools will require you to live on campus. Most institutions will require you to live on campus for their first 2 years. So just look into that and see what kind of, requirement they offer. And then a really cool on-campus kind of resource or option for students. You can't typically apply for it your first year, but usually your second, third, and fourth year out of school is becoming a residential assistant. So this is a student job, an on-campus employment opportunity. You would apply for it, you'd interview, and you'd basically be kind of in charge of one floor of a residence home. You would be kind of the main resource for all the students on that floor. They would come to you if they had any sort of maintenance request, if they had any sort of question about like where to go for a specific resource, anything like that. You would kind of be in charge of that floor and be like the main point of contact for all of the students living on that floor. And in exchange for that, you would be able to get free housing and free meals. So it's a really good way of reducing your costs of attending school is to become a residential assistant. So I would definitely recommend looking into that wherever you go to school, just because it's a really good option. And you can put it on your resume, and it's a really good work experience as well. So just a few kind of advantages to living off campus and then living on campus as well. If you live on campus, all your expenses are included in your tuition and fees, and so that you don't have to worry about like budgeting for food or rent or anything like that. It's all included, which is nice. It really does a lot to promote your social life because you're living on campus, you're close to all the other students. It allows you to really make good connections that way pretty easily. And then a shorter commute just because you're living on campus and you don't necessarily have to get a car to travel to class or anything like that. The few perks to living off campus are that you do have more privacy, you have more options about where to live, if you want to live with roommates or live alone, that sort of thing. And then it is typically you would sign a year-long lease, and so it's a year-long housing option, whereas living on campus typically you can only live there during the school year, and so you might need to find somewhere else to get in, to live for an internship. You might be able to still live on campus. It just kind of depends on the school. You don't have to worry about that living off campus. You'd be able to live in your apartment year-round. So there's a few different application processes when you apply to schools in the US. One of them is rolling admission, the other one is regular admission. So rolling admission, there's not really any deadline for when you need to apply by. They're constantly accepting or denying students as they receive their application and their supporting documents. So typically you'd apply and you'd hear back within about 1 to 2 weeks with an admission decision. Regular admission, on the other hand, is a bit different in that you do have a deadline for when you can apply by. So they'll hold all the applications and then they'll make a decision at one time for all the students. So you'll apply and then you'll wait to hear back until a certain date. This regular admission is a lot more popular for schools that have like a limited number of spots available for each program. So they want to collect all the applications that they can and then pick the best students who are the most qualified. Whereas rolling admission, they don't necessarily have, like a restricted number of students that they can accept into certain programs, and so they'll accept as many as are qualified. A list of kind of the traditional application requirements that you can expect to be asked for when you're applying to a school in the US. We'll need to have an application on file, of course. Some applications are free, some have an application fee. It just kind of depends on the school. You'll need to see test scores, and official transcripts, and then definitely proof of English proficiency as well. We want to make sure that you can speak and read and interpret and kind of are proficient in English to be able to go to school here. Some schools will require letters of recommendation or an essay. Some schools will not, just really depends on the school that you're applying to. And then typically once you're accepted, then they'll ask you for your copy of your passport and then your financial guarantee. These documents we don't necessarily need to make an admission decision, but we need them to issue your I-20. And then at the graduate level, we'll need to see a GRE or your personal statement as well, in addition to all the other documents that were listed above. Just a few tips for applying. Make sure you're reading all the instructions carefully to make sure that you understand the school and the program that you're applying for. Make sure that you're applying to the program that you're actually interested in. You're going to be spending, a lot of money to go to this school, and so make sure that it's actually a program that you're interested in and that you want to be getting a degree in. And then know your deadlines if there are any. It's always better to turn your documents in sooner rather than later, because the sooner we can make an admission decision, the better. And then make sure that you provide all the requested information for schools that have rolling admission or regular admission. We can't make an admission decision until we receive all the required documents. And so we typically can't make an admission decision with an incomplete application. And then a few ways to make sure that your application has a competitive advantage is going to be that you exceed the admission requirements, whether that's having a higher GPA than is required. If you have a higher SAT or ACT score, is going to make your application competitive against other students. And then some schools will look at your community involvement and take more of a holistic look at your application. So they want to see that you're involved in the community and giving back, and what kind of extracurriculars you may have participated in and that sort of thing. And then for schools that require an essay, these admissions counselors are reading hundreds of essays. And so if there's a way that you can make your essay unique, definitely do as much as you can to write a unique essay and one that will stick out amongst all the other ones that they have read. And then make sure you complete your application early. The sooner you can do it, the better, just to allow more time to get your I-20 and schedule your interview and make all the travel arrangements. And then a little bit about tuition and scholarships. Make sure that you know how much your family can afford to pay for school. Typically STEM majors do make more money than other majors, or like people with other degrees, and so the return on your investment is going to be higher if you get a degree in STEM. But just make sure that you can pay for your school, because you need to show proof of at least 1 year of tuition and living expenses in order to obtain your visa from the U.S. Embassy. So make sure you know the cost of tuition, the cost of living expenses, and then health insurance. So health insurance is mandatory if you are studying in the U.S. on an F-1 visa. You don't necessarily need to purchase U.S. Health insurance, but if you take your health insurance from your home country, you need to make sure that it covers you in the U.S. as well. This is just an example of a financial guarantee form that you could fill out to show proof of, having sufficient funds for at least 1 year. There's a few different types of aid that you'll want to look for. The two most important ones are going to be scholarships and grants. So both of these are free money that you do not need to pay back. Scholarships are going to be, often based on merit or talent, or if you're interested in a particular area of study. These come usually from the school. Sometimes they're external. It just depends. And then grants as well do not need to be paid back. And typically these are need-based. So if you can provide proof of, like your family's financial situation, some schools will offer need-based grants as well. And then loans are, borrowing money from a bank. Typically there's interest on that, so you'd have to pay that back. So it's kind of like an investment in your education. Sponsorships is another option, getting money from a relative, company, or sometimes governments have a scholarship or a sponsorship as well. And then work study is a good way to kind of make money while you're attending school as well. You can work on campus up to 20 hours a week. Typically, these jobs on campus don't pay like very, very well, but you earn enough money to kind of live in the US, whether it's like going to the movies or buying groceries or something like that. And then there's kind of different institutional aid comes from the school, and then other aid will come from, external resources. So some institutions will have you apply for scholarships with a separate application. Sometimes it'll be like one application that you fill out for all the scholarships available. Sometimes you'll have multiple forms. So just kind of ask your admissions counselor what their school prefers. And then make sure you're researching institutions to see what kind of aid is offered to students, if they have any fully funded scholarships, or what kind of scholarships they do offer for international students. Just make sure you're asking your admissions counselor these sorts of questions. And then the size and the type of institution will also, typically determine the availability of aid. Smaller schools might have a little bit less aid available than larger schools. Same with public and private, just kind of varies. And then some institutions will provide external resources. So just ask your admissions counselor or advisor what kind of external resources they have available. But some examples that we have are internationalscholarships.com, IEFA.com, and then sometimes you might be able to talk with your advisor from your home country to see if there's any other ones. Maybe your specific country offers some sort of resources as well for their students. So just kind of do your research that way. And then here's just a quick slide about kind of the cost of living, what you can anticipate. Like I said, health insurance is required. The cost of it will really vary based on whether you bring your own, if you purchase it from your school. And then if you're living off campus, make sure you know what the monthly rate, like the cost of rent is going to be. If you need any sort of transportation budget, if you need a car, if you can ride the bus or anything like that. And then food, kind of what help determine what your budget would be for groceries. All right, so a little bit about Milwaukee School of Engineering, which is the school that I represent. We are ranked 10th for undergraduate engineering programs by the U.S. News and World Report, so that's something we're really proud of. Some of our individual programs are even ranked higher, like our actuarial science program is ranked 2nd, computer engineering is 5th, civil engineering is 6th. So depending on what specific engineering program you're looking at, we might be ranked even higher. We've worked really hard to get, these world rankings. We're really proud of that. We have a really applications-based curriculum, and so you'll learn a lot, in the lectures, but then there's a lot of lab time that you'll spend applying what you're learning in the classroom. So it's a very applications-based, hands-on curriculum. We do have a nursing program as well. So for the 2021 undergraduate nursing program, NCLEX pass rate was about 90%. So the NCLEX is an exam that nursing students take before they can graduate and become nurses in the U.S. So the fact that our NCLEX pass rate is about 90, it oscillates between 90 and 100% year to year, compared to the national average, which is only about 75 or 80%. So our nursing students tend to do really well compared to other students at other schools. And then we do have a computer science program that you'll take classes in artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, augmented reality. And then there's a supercomputer as well on campus that you'll have access to as an undergraduate student. We're located in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So we're about 90 minutes from Chicago, about 130 kilometers north of Chicago. We're located right on the shores of Lake Michigan. And so If you want to go to the beach, it's only about a 10-minute walk from campus. And so we are in a bigger city, I'd say 1.6 million people in Milwaukee. So there's a lot of different activities and things to do, whether it's going to, live theater. There's a lot of sports venues around here. There's a lot of restaurants. There's just a lot of things to do because we're located right downtown Milwaukee. And so we're in a very urban environment, I would say. We are a smaller school, so we have just under 3,000 students enrolled. Of that 3,000 or of that 2,800 students, we have about 100 international students enrolled. The last few years, our enrollment has been a little bit lower just because it's been a lot harder for students to come abroad because of COVID and the restrictions and everything that way. But this past fall, we had our highest number of international students in a few years. We had about 40 students start, and so we're really proud of that and really happy to have, be increasing international student numbers. Over 30 different countries are represented, from India to England to Italy, Ecuador, Mexico. They come from all over the all over the world. And then we have international faculty as well. So we have a computer science professor who's from India. We have a science teacher from, I want to say he's from Kazakhstan. I want to say something like that. Some country nearby there, if not. And then we are a university that's really focused on the practical application of what's learned in the classroom. So you'll see that a lot in this presentation about, you'll spend a lot of time in labs, very practical, application-based. Here's just a list of some of our programs, or all the programs that we offer. Architectural engineering and civil engineering, they have a 5-year option. So if you want to go on to get your master's degree in either of these, you can get your bachelor's and your master's in about 5 years, which is kind of an accelerated program compared to others. Typically, it'd take you about 6 or 7 years to get both. And then our construction management is a little bit less math heavy than our architectural and civil engineering programs, but you still kind of get that engineering background as well. And then we have a few different programs under the computer engineering realm: computer engineering, software engineering, computer science, user experience. These are all kind of utilizing computers a lot in your major. And then we have actuarial science, business, and nursing. That's kind of our miscellaneous, I would say, majors. And then our other engineering programs are biomedical, biomolecular engineering, electrical engineering, industrial, and mechanical. So a little bit about our educational philosophy. We are a direct entry institution. And so what that means is that you'll start taking major specific coursework within your first term here. Within your first semester, if you're a biomedical engineering student, you'll start taking biomedical engineering classes right away, in September. And so you don't have to worry about taking like pre-engineering or pre-nursing classes or anything like that. You would just start taking classes right away. And then you'll spend over 600 hours of time in lab throughout your 4 years of study. And so you'll spend a lot of time in lab as well as, in lecture as well. And then our class sizes are about 13:1 student to professor ratio. So some of your more introductory level classes like calculus and physics, they're going to have maybe 30 students in them, compared to as you move within the program and take more like higher level major specific courses, you might have maybe like 15 or 20 students in them. And you'll spend your whole last year working on a senior design project. Some of these are assigned to you depending on what your major is. Some programs will assign you a project. Some will allow you to work with a local company to work on a project that they kind of sponsor. And then other programs will allow you to pick whatever project you want to do. So it just kind of depends on what your program is, but you'll spend that whole year working on it, from inception all the way until you implement the program, or you have a 3D model of it, or whatever may look like for your major. So that's kind of unique to us, and it's kind of the last step before you would be working in the industry. You get experience working on a project. You get the autonomy to really work on it on your own, and then you know, it's kind of like a good practice before you be out on your own at a job. And then we require all of our teachers to have at least 7 years of industry experience, and so you know that they can pull from their personal experience or professional experience when they're giving examples in classroom, which is really nice. And we don't have any teaching assistants here. It's all professors, teach all your classes and all your labs. And then we have a 4-year graduation guarantee as well. So we can guarantee that if you take all the classes that we tell you to, and you pass everything the first time, we can get you in and out of here within 4 years. So a little bit about cost information. So our tuition is about $46,506. This is for 22-23. We haven't released our numbers for the 23-24 academic year yet, but this will give you kind of a nice idea of what our tuition, our cost information is. Estimated living expenses, this includes room and board, it's just under $13,000. Health insurance is about $2,000, so that comes out to right around $61,446. But every accepted international student does receive a $25,000 scholarship. Oops, excuse me, per year. So that brings the cost down to around $35,000 for the year. You might be eligible for additional scholarships as well. Just talk to your admissions counselor if you're interested in applying. Talk to your admissions counselor once you're accepted, and then you can kind of see if you're eligible for any additional scholarships to bring that cost down even more. So we have about a 96% job placement rate, which means that if there's 100 students in a room, only 4 of them will not have reported that they got a job or that they have moved on to grad school by the time they graduate. Most students will have a job secured by like November of their senior year. And so that's something they can spend their whole like senior year not even worrying about finding a job because they've already secured one. And then the average starting salary is right around $65,000 per year. So the return on investment is pretty exponential, I would say, which is really nice. So MSOE graduates have worked at, you know, a lot of different companies. Harley-Davidson's the biggest one, pretty popular in Milwaukee, Amazon, Tesla. These are just a few examples. And then there's a couple different options for living on campus. The pictures you see here is for our apartment building. These are on-campus, fully furnished apartments with a kitchen and a bathroom, and then all utilities are included in rent. And so you get your own kitchen, your own bathroom, your own bedroom, and then you typically would share it with one other student. For some of the bigger apartments, you might share with 2 or 3 other students, just kind of depends. But these are a nice option if you want the freedom to be able to cook your own meals, clean your own space, but still be on campus. And then here are a couple of our other residence halls that require you to have a meal plan. So Herman Beach Tower is our newest one. It just opened about 2 years ago. Margaret Lock Hall is right across the street. It's a little bit older, but it's pretty similar. It's just not quite as updated. So you'd share one room with one other person, and then be shared bathroom with like everybody on the floor. And then you don't have your own kitchen because you have a meal plan. So you just would go to, you know, you'd eat on campus everywhere. And then Regents Residence Hall is our other option. It's just for female students, but it's more suite style housing. So you'd have, you know, 2 bedrooms and the shared living and kitchen area. A little bit about our admission requirements. So we require official transcripts with a minimum of 3.0 grade point average on a US scale. So we'll convert your transcripts over to US scale, but we're looking for about a B average. And then we need proof of English proficiency as well, whether it's TOEFL or IELTS. And we do accept Duolingo as well. And then we don't require the SAT or the ACT, but we do really recommend students take it. It helps a lot during the visa process, we find. And then we're looking for students with a really strong math and science background as well, because we want to see that that's kind of the foundation of all of our engineering programs, is a strong math and science background. And so we want to see that you have a really good kind of foundation in those two departments there. Our application is free, so you can apply on our website. We have a rolling admission, so we're constantly accepting applications, we're accepting students and everything like that. So the next steps, if you're interested, would just be to apply on our website. Here's my contact information, so you can email me with any sort of follow-up questions. Otherwise, I will turn it over to see if we have any questions in the chat.
Thank you, Lucia. Thank you, everyone, for watching this recording. If you're watching the recording, for the purpose of asking questions, we will stop recording now.